The brand name on your kitchen cabinet is a costume. You walked into that showroom believing you were choosing between proud American companies: KraftMaid, Aristokraft, Diamond, Omega, Shenandoah, names with decades of heritage behind them. But behind almost every one of those names sits one of just 3 corporations. And in late May 2026, 2 of those 3 are merging into a single company worth $3.6 billion. Today we are going to show you how the American kitchen cabinet was quietly consolidated, why the box under your sink is now built to dissolve, why a wall of tariffs failed to bring the jobs home, and the only 3 places you should actually spend your money if you want a kitchen that outlives the loan you took out to pay for it. Walk through any kitchen showroom or any big box home center and you will see what looks like a healthy, competitive marketplace. Dozens of brands, different logos, different price tags, different sales pitches, KraftMaid in one aisle, Aristokraft in another, Hampton Bay stacked to the ceiling at Home Depot, Allen and Roth at Lowe's. You assume these are rival companies fighting to build you a better cabinet. That is an illusion. The reality is that 3 corporations now sit on top of nearly the entire American cabinet industry. Masterbrand owns Aristokraft, Diamond, Schrock, and Omega. Cabinetworks owns KraftMaid, Marilat, Yorktown, and Medallion. American Woodmark builds Timberlake and Shenandoah, and it makes the house brand cabinets sold under Hampton Bay and Allen and Roth. Together, by one industry estimate, those 3 control around 38% of the market. And here is the part that should stop you cold. Masterbrand and American Woodmark are not even staying separate. Their all-stock merger cleared the Federal Trade Commission and is closing right now, creating a single cabinet giant projected at over $4.4 billion in revenue with roughly 21,000 employees. So the real question is, what happened to the cabinets themselves when the family businesses got swallowed? To understand the damage, you have to understand the spreadsheet. These heritage brands were not always corporate property. Crystal was started by the Hammer family in Minnesota in 1947. Wellborn was founded by 2 brothers in Alabama in 1961. In a building barely 3,000 square feet, KraftMaid was once owned by the same Smucker family that makes your jam. One by one, these independent makers were bought, merged, and folded into holding companies focused on quarterly earnings. The timeline reads like a feeding frenzy. In 1998, a conglomerate bundled Aristokraft, Diamond, Schrock, and others into a single entity called Masterbrand. In 2002, it added Omega and KitchenCraft. In 2015, that owner swallowed Norcraft and its brands for around $600 million. In 2017, American Woodmark bought RSY Home Products for over $1 billion. In 2020, the company we now call Cabinetworks bought the KraftMaid and Marilat brands from another giant for $1 billion in cash, and a year later, a private equity firm bought the whole thing. In 2024 alone, Masterbrand acquired Supreme Cabinetry and absorbed its Dura, Supreme, and Birch names. The pattern is identical to what private equity did to the recreational vehicle industry. You buy a brand with a trusted reputation, you keep the comforting name on the door, and then you quietly strip cost out of the product until the only thing left of the original company is the logo. And the very first place cost gets stripped is the material the cabinet is actually made of. Because the ROT in your kitchen does not start with water. It starts with an accounting decision made in a boardroom you will never see. Here is what that decision looks like in your house. For generations, a quality cabinet box was built from plywood. Real layers of wood glued in alternating directions, strong enough to hold a stone countertop and shrug off a spilled glass of water. But plywood is expensive, so the mass market industry switched to particleboard and medium density fiberboard. These are not wood. They are sawdust and wood chips held together with urea formaldehyde glue, then wrapped in a thin printed skin so they look like wood on the showroom floor. This works perfectly until the day it meets moisture. And in a kitchen, Moisture is not a possibility, it is a certainty. Every sink eventually drips, every dishwasher hose eventually weeps, every supply line eventually loosens. Picture the most common version of this. A family installs a beautiful new kitchen. 2 years later, a supply line under the sink develops a slow weep that nobody notices because it is hidden behind the trash pullout. By the time they smell it, the cabinet bottom has turned to wet oatmeal. When water reaches a plywood box, you wipe it up and move on. When water reaches particleboard, the glue surrenders, the chips swell, and the board expands and never returns to its original shape. Restoration professionals put it simply: once a particleboard panel has swelled, you cannot shrink it back. The bloated bottom can no longer grip a single screw, the hinges loosen, and the carcass loses the strength to hold the heavy quartz top you paid thousands of dollars for. But the box is only half the story. Now look at the doors. The cheapest popular door on the market is called thermofoil. It is a sheet of vinyl film vacuum pressed over a fiberboard core. It looks like painted wood and costs a fraction of the price. The problem is heat. The adhesive holding that vinyl skin softens at sustained temperatures above roughly 150 degrees. So where do these doors fail first? Exactly where you would expect. Above the oven, above the dishwasher, above the coffee maker and the toaster. The skin bubbles, lifts, and peels away from the core, and because it was heat bonded in a one-shot vacuum press, it cannot be pressed back on. The door is simply finished. Then there is the joinery, the way the pieces are held together. A real drawer is dovetailed, solid wood interlocked at the corners so it can survive a lifetime of slamming. The mass market drawer is stapled and glued with a notched butt joint. As one cabinet shop put it, the drawer boxes and joints are among the first things to fall apart in low-end cabinetry because staples simply do not have the strength of a hardwood dovetail. And there is one more cost the brochure never mentions. That urea formaldehyde glue does not just hold the sawdust together. It slowly releases formaldehyde gas into your kitchen air, a chemical that international health agencies classify as a human carcinogen. Regulators were concerned enough that federal rules now cap how much a fiberboard panel is allowed to emit at about 1/10 of 1 part per million, and even a compliant panel sits right at that ceiling and keeps off-gassing for years after installation. So you are not only buying a box that dissolves, you are breathing it. Stack these failures together and you get a kitchen that looks flawless the day it is installed and starts coming apart the moment real life touches it. And you might assume the warranty protects you. It does not. Those limited lifetime warranties routinely exclude moisture damage, exclude normal wear, and do not transfer when you sell the house, which means the single most common way your cabinet dies is the exact thing the warranty refuses to cover. So the people who saw this coming tried to fix it with a wall of tariffs, and even that did not work. In 2019, an alliance of American cabinet makers went to the federal government and accused China of flooding the market with cabinets sold below cost. At the time, imports of Chinese wooden cabinets and vanities were valued at roughly $4.4 billion a year, nearly half of the entire American market. The government agreed. By 2020, it imposed anti-dumping duties reaching as high as 262%, and it renewed those duties through a review in 2025. On paper, this was a victory for American manufacturing. In reality, the production did not come home. It simply moved next door. An attorney for the industry described a massive surge in illegal transshipment, with cabinet imports from Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia jumping by 1,000% or more as Chinese goods were quietly rerouted to dodge the duties. And here is the cruelest part. While the tariffs were supposedly protecting American jobs, the consolidators were closing American factories anyway. Cabinet Works shut its plant in Thompsontown, Pennsylvania, costing 420 jobs, and closed 2 plants in Texas, costing 350 more. Haas Cabinet of Indiana, A family company that had built cabinets for 85 years ran out of road and auctioned off its entire factory starting in April of 2025. The merger now underway projects $90 million in annual cost savings. And in this industry, cost savings is a polite phrase for closed plants and laid off workers. So if the showroom is rigged, the materials are engineered to surrender, and the warranty is a trap, do you just give up on ever owning a real kitchen? No. You stop shopping like a consumer and you start thinking like an auditor. The first escape route is to buy from the independents the consolidators have not swallowed. Crystal Cabinet Works in Minnesota is still owned by the family that founded it. Showplace Wood Products in South Dakota is 100% employee-owned, structured on purpose so it could never be absorbed by a distant holding company. Wellborn in Alabama still runs its own lumber mill and still builds plywood boxes with solid hardwood face frames and dovetailed drawers as standard. Countrycraft in Pennsylvania is one of the rare makers that dovetails the cabinet box itself, not just the drawer. The second route is to hire a good local custom shop, because the odds are excellent that their doors come from a quiet family company called Conestoga that has supplied independent cabinet makers since 1964. But move quickly, because this list shrinks every year. In 2024 alone, Plain and Fancy was bought by a larger rival, and Dura, Supreme, and Birch were absorbed into MasterBrand. The third route costs the least, and almost nobody talks about it. Find a solid kitchen built before the year 2000. Those older oak and maple cabinets, the ones currently out of fashion, were built with plywood boxes and solid wood frames, and refacing companies confirm they are structurally sound after 30 years. You can put new doors on a 30-year-old box that will outlast anything sold today under a so-called lifetime warranty. And recognizing the good stuff takes about 60 seconds in any showroom. Pull a drawer all the way out and flip it over. If you see dovetails in solid wood, that is real. If you see staples and glue, walk away. Then look at the cut edge of a cabinet side. Striped layers mean plywood. Uniform brown speckle means particleboard wearing a costume. Ask the salesperson for 4 things in writing: plywood box, solid wood face frame, dovetailed drawers, full extension soft close slides. If they cannot promise all 4, you are buying a label, not a cabinet. The era of the trusted brand name meaning anything is over, and the corporations are counting on you not to notice. They are counting on you to be dazzled by the soft close hinges and the showroom lighting, so you never flip the drawer over and never ask what the box is actually made of. But the brand on the door is not the company that built it. The corporation that owns that brand can change the material, close the plant, lay off the workers, and never once change the label you trust. So check the construction, not the name. Flip the drawer, read the edge, ask what is under the skin, and never again let a logo convince you that sawdust is the same thing as wood. If this opened your eyes to what is really behind those cabinet doors, hit subscribe, because we expose a different American industry every single week.